So it's Wednesday morning, got a late start, and today, this is just about dry. It's still kind of soft, but I think it's going to be okay for sanding. This is going to be my first time sanding the table, and hopefully it all goes well. My goal is to sand it, clean it, and then apply the final epoxy coat. Well, it's hard to tell, but that was basically a disaster. The sanding was a bad idea. I don't know, did some funky stuff, and sanding was a bad idea. So whenever I touch the sander, I seem to make things worse. I just made that big chip in it, which is brutal, all the way down to the base. And I was trying to sand this stuff, and I took up some copper, and I'm just can't touch this thing with the sander. Maybe it's because it's not hardened enough, or I'm just a total noob with the sander. I don't really know, but I'm done with the idea of sanding it. I'm putting up this tape as like a resin dam. I'm going to put it all the way around, and then I'm going to pour the last of my resin, hope that it auto levels with enough liquid, and then this project is going to be done. I probably won't sand the top layer, and if I do, it will be days after the pour. So I'm just going to do the last step of this project and then be done with it. So I've got it all taped off, and now I am doing the final pour, which is thicker than the other pours as far as how much material there is and the coverage. So I gotta kind of try to apportion it appropriately. And so this should get a decently thick. I probably once again added too much color, but oh well. The more color is, the more it dulls. It hides the mistakes, but dulls the other features. So now I'm going to use a squeegee and get this whole thing covered, and then this should make it rather flat. So the final coat is all applied. It was a bit more clear for a final coat, and it's a lot more thick, and it gets coverage on the whole thing. It fills in most all of the holes and valleys, and turned out alright. So I gotta wait for this to dry. And then, well actually, I think I'm supposed to take the tape dam down in like an hour or something when it's like slightly less viscous, and then rub down the sides so that resin gets all over the sides. But don't do it too early, because then I'll lose too much of my product. So I think I'm gonna set like an hour and a half timer, and then I'll test if I should take the tape dam down and work the edges. When I took the tape dam off, it ripped a whole section of the lower level epoxy off and made like a tape line across the whole front. But I've been using, like you can kind of see it over here more. So I've been using the last little bit of epoxy that I have mixed with the spray paint to try to touch up that line so you don't see that as much. And if I do it effectively, it almost just like gives the side more variation and more depth. But overall, I'm actually pretty happy with how the last pour turned out. Covering the whole surface like that and then doing that tape dam, I think that's a lot closer to what you're supposed to be doing, as I'm learning from this material. And now when I watch other Stone Coat countertop videos, I'll be able to understand more because I've done a little more, and when I do future projects, I'll do better. But I'm actually pretty happy with how this one turned out. And I'm just now doing some last touch-ups while it's drying for its final time. Hey, kitty. So I managed to hide the tape line well enough. If you're looking for it, you can kind of see it. But otherwise, it just kind of looks like natural, or somewhat natural. There's just a good bit of variation on the edge. It's not like so bad that it's unbearable. But that was a close call. Close call on the edge of ruining a piece that's took a lot of time to make. But so it's the next morning. It's Wednesday morning. It's still tacky, like it's still a bit sticky to touch, but it's pretty close to dry. Nothing is like moving anymore, so you get a really good view of all the different designs and how some of it's mostly flat. It's not all totally flat. There's still some pieces, especially along the edges, like the taller features along the edges are the ones that didn't get totally enclosed by or like evened out the elevation of it by the resin. But I'm happy with it. And tomorrow I'll be able to probably get back to work in here. But today, because this is drying, I'm going to do a full tire day. What do you think, girl? You can help me? And see what I can do in a full tire day. So here's where we are to start the day. This is that arch, and so you can see its unfinished edge. There's lath and remesh sticking out. So basically I can just add more lath and remesh and then connect it to that, and then extend the cement. So it's really easy to just keep a structure going if you leave it raw at the end. And so it just had that stone wall that's kind of going up the dirt. So as I'm trenching the dirt out here, it might ruin some of that stone wall that as it gets like dug out from underneath. So learn some cool lessons about that, and then I'm just gonna plan on moving most of this dirt right here into tires, which there's about 7 or 8 or something currently there, and then the tires will come this way, and then over to here. I think this tire right here is the last one that was pounded. I'm pretty sure. That one's pounded, that one's pounded, that one's pounded. I'm not sure if this one here is pounded. But then all the rest are just kind of like stacked on top. It almost looks like there's dirt in this one, which would mean that that one and that one are pounded. I'm not sure. But ideally, I would connect that tire wall all the way over to here. But that's a whole bunch to do in one day. But we'll see. This is all I'm really planning on doing today, so hopefully I'll make some good progress. So by the afternoon, I've got the line extended to almost touching this structure. So this tire here is touching that structure, and then this is the gap that there ends up being between them. So in the next course I can do a thin or a smaller tire, and then that course will lay on top of this one. And then one of the 2 unions will be complete of that new tire wall with the existing structure. And then the next union to make is with this tire wall out here. But I don't think I'm going to get to that one today, but we'll see what happens. But I don't really want to deconstruct that. So I think I'm just going to be focusing on this union here between the new tire wall and the existing structure. So into this big old tire, where it actually stepped up twice, we've got this exposed dirt. So right now I'm going to build a little rock wall underneath that whole tire. And then if everything goes well, I'll mix my first batch of mortar. I should probably check the weather before I say that though. I just made a stone wall and then rinsed it off because I was ready to mortar. And it collapsed. So now, even though the mortar's mixed, I'm going to try to rebuild the wall as fast as I can, and then hopefully get it to stay this time before the mortar cures, and then the mortar hold it in place after. It was a good thing I made such a small batch of mortar, because I couldn't rebuild the whole thing in time. Clearly didn't build it very well the first time, but the dirt behind turns to mud so fast that when you try to get the rock wall wet, it just like collapses. But anyway, so long as this holds, hopefully it holds, it might not hold, but if this holds, that at least creates like a foundation to then build upon, like a part that won't collapse when the others destabilize, and then can add more in small batches from there. But if that holds, I'll be happy. If it collapses, I'll be kind of sad. But otherwise, I feel like it was a pretty good day of tires. I didn't get more done. I just I was pivoting into different things, and so, but I'm happy with how far the tire wall got, that it's just about connected to the other structure. And I do really just need to spend one more day on this to get it to as complete as I would like before I transition back to that lower room. So, by the end of the full tire day, I didn't actually get those 2 pounded. But I did get a second coat on this stone wall here of what's standing, and that didn't collapse. And that was the first bit of mortar. Hey, sweetheart. She just got some cheese, lucky girl. So in the steepest part here, where this one double stepped up, I got the most susceptible to kind of dirt fallout, if you know what I mean, from underneath the tire. So that'll be good. And then by tomorrow, that countertop should be dried. A chicken did walk on it today, but it's like largely dried, so hopefully it's not permanently damaged, but it was still pretty soft. But this area has been totally transformed. With a little bit of groundwork, it could be really nice over here. Well, that's all from over here for today. Hey, Scooby, sweet moomer. You're such a sweetheart. The 2 boys pop up there, and then Kudo over there. I tried to put him in the apple tree. It didn't quite work out, though. But they're both out on their wilderness adventure now. It's the morning after I released Puff and Kudo, and I'm currently on my way to go check on them with an offering. Hopefully I can find them. Well, I've looked all around for Puff and Kudo, and no sign of them. I tried to put them in the tree last night, but I was not successful, and they ended up on the ground and kind of flustered a bit. And so, because who knows how far they went, and if they ever tried to get up into a tree, or if they stayed on the ground all night. But I may not see either of them again. But I'll come check again probably later today, maybe tomorrow, and hope that I can find them and give them an offering now that they're out on their own. Wish them well. So the countertop is complete with the sink and the faucet and the sprayer all integrated into it. I'll just have to silicone the sink so that it's a watertight seam. There was one negative that happened. I mean, I'm like happy with this outcome, but I made another mistake. Every mistake I make has like a permanent effect on this thing, basically. But chickens got on the counter, and before it had totally dried, like you can probably see their chicken tracks here. And it like wasn't too deep, and I could have just left it, and it would have been like a quirky kind of thing. You can like see some more here, so you still can see some chicken tracks. Or how do you see it? There, you can kind of see them. But what I ended up doing was trying to sand it out, and you can totally see where I sanded it, and it takes its luster away, and changes the reflection. So I wish I didn't sand it. I wish I just left it as chicken tracks. I wish I would have kept the chickens off it entirely. But I still have to reinforce it underneath. But right now, I'm still kind of in tire mode a bit and ready to do some cement. So the next goal is I'm gonna have to dig the dirt out on like that part of the room, and I gotta prep the space to put the dirt into. So I mentioned it on last video, but basically the reason I got the rebar was to do this next part to prep for the dirt moving. So I've been planning many steps ahead to get here. Now the next step is to do some cement on that tire wall, take down the tire stack, and you'll see. I ended up getting sidetracked doing some support projects underneath the counter to make sure that it's all strong enough under there, and pretty happy with that. I wouldn't really want to sit on it in the different places, but otherwise it's pretty strong. But I guess it would be nice to be strong enough to be comfortable sitting on it. But after doing all that, I got to this project, which is creating the form for this end tire here, which I'll now fill with concrete after I mix it, which also included getting the mixer all prepped and dumping the acid and attacking it with a crowbar. So basically it's just staples and a couple screws securing the lath to the tire, using the tire as the secure point for the form. And then there's like 3 T-posts, which they're not really that deep in there, but they'll help for some structural element, along with that piece of rebar in there at that level, which I might adjust the level of it. I'm not fully satisfied that that's where I want that piece of rebar. But about to do a cement mix. I think like 3 buckets of stone, 1 bucket of sand, and then like a full bag of Portland, because the Portland is old, or something strange like that, but we'll see what happens. The mix ended up being 2 buckets of stone, 1 bucket of sand, and a half bag of Portland. The half bag of Portland was like old, and it had clumps in it. So that's why I was originally thinking I might do a full bag of Portland. Oh, here's that beautiful girl. Hey! So it wasn't enough to fill the whole area, but I didn't want to overload this form. So I'm going to leave it with 1 batch. And then probably tomorrow we'll do the other batch. That will bring it all the way up to level with that other tire. But this will certainly start to anchor that rebar and all of these T-posts in as well. And then once the second batch is dried is when I can extend the tire wall, the next tire, over onto that and up against it. But right now I am going to go take another look and see if I can find Puff or Kudo, because I went early this morning and it might have been too early for them. But then I was just looking at the other roosters and I was like, is that Kudo? Because Art looks a lot like Kudo now that Art's lost his tail feathers, but I'm pretty sure I got Kudo and not Art. But I'm going to go walk over there and check on them now. The pear news is very good. Each one of those white flowers could be a pear. And then that tree over there is also a pear tree with more white flowers. That one's a little bit smaller. But then over here is another really big pear tree with lots of flowers. So the pear news is very good. Latest addition is a door. Pretty simple. With an insulated window, and at some point the panel can get insulated. But that's it for Friday. End of the day, cleaning that. Look at these glorious trees. So colorful and fruitful and just buzzing with all the pollinator activity. Good morning, Saturday. Just got the trash and recyclables out. Met a cool guy at the dump. And this is all solid. I prepped today by putting these screws, how do you see it? See the screws? Right around the steel belt of the tire. So that the batch today, those screws, and some of those screws are through the lath part there, which wraps around. Basically just because the hill impedes on it, so I wrapped the lath to the inside there as opposed to the outside here. There'll be opportunities later to put more screws in that sidewall through the lath into the tire. But basically those screws, once cemented in, help to anchor this cement block into that tire, as well as how it's already connected sort of to the tire below, just kind of loosely via those 3 posts being connected to the dirt. But then also all of the staples that go in, and there's a few screws in there, but I'll probably end up adding more screws along the edge of that before I come in with mortar to cover up the exposed lath parts. But the first part, oh, there's a kitty over there. So I'm going to do the other half of that old Portland bag with the same mix, 2 buckets of stone, 1 bucket of sand, and then hopefully this will get up to the level of that tire after I pour it all up in there, maybe even slightly higher. After batch 2, the level is perfect, just up to the height of the tire there. So once it hardens, the next tire can come up right to the edge of this. and then this will extend up higher, as high as the next tire at least. And currently it's somewhere between like a $50 and $80 block there, the cost of this little feature, but it's going to make all the difference. You'll see as the tire wall goes up, and then it has this awesome fat column as the end of it, which can then get tied into other things, but it'll be well worth it, as you'll see in time. So this 2x6 that I framed like 50 square feet of kind of loft space off of has just been strapped to that pillar. I said 2x6, right? And now it's time to anchor it in. It's just been kind of pinned against it, but what I did here is put lath up against it and stapled and screwed the lath as an anchor, because the mortar is going to have to take the force of it. But it's going to go in two parts. First I'm going to do concrete to go in these two gaps around the sides, which will get those screws cemented in with the lath. And then I'll have to make some mason mix after that to kind of plaster over the lath on the sides to get it all starting to bond together, so that eventually I can take down this strap. But I'll basically have to do that in layers for a good bit of this strap to fully anchor it in. So it went okay on this side, but on this side it got rather sloppy, because I basically just had too much cement, didn't know what to do with it, and then I was putting too much on and trying to do a mortar job with concrete. So we'll see how it turns out, but that's basically it for, I put the rest of the mortar over there to start a little mortared retaining wall over there. Here's how that cement thing turned out. So it was using the cement block and these logs as a form to cement in the bottom of this 2x6. So this is how it turned out. This is where the forms were over here, where the lath didn't get covered. So I'll just have to do another coat of just mortar this time to go over all that, clean it up. Here's like a hole where you can see some lath in there. So some more mortar on there before the other stuff cures would be good. So yesterday got all rained out, Sunday did. So Monday got some great news, and I'm just gonna put some finishes on the loft so that that space can begin getting utilized by some great people. And once I do that, I'll probably do this one batch of mortar. And then after that, I got the washing machine out here and I'm cleaning this out. I'll get the dresser out of there. And then I can start to dig the dirt out of here to lower the floor. And then the dirt will start going over here on the first tire that I put on top of that cement thing to extend the tire wall. Some really big truck tires. So we'll see how many tires can be pounded and built up with the dirt that is in there. So those are the 3 tasks for today. Loft finishes. What was number 2? Oh yeah, fixing that, or adding a batch of mortar on that, and then digging dirt and putting them into the new tires. So I'll update with progress. So I finished a couple things like getting curtain rod up there and spray painting it copper and doing the weather stripping, getting a bungee cord so that this window door thing can stay open. And so the loft is all squared away and ready for residents. This area here I have cleaned out, and I'm now ready to start digging it down and extending the tire wall over here above where it's at now. But first lunch, and then to that next stage. I left the door in here open today because it's such a nice day, and the chickies were going out, but somebody came in here and beat up on Verona, the old girl, probably one of those beta males, Butterscotch or Art. But anyways, she's pretty damaged right now. Can't even really stand properly, and I'm gonna do my best to take care of her, and we'll see tomorrow if she's feeling any better. That's how much it took for the first tire. I'll get a little bit of lighting over here. So it's gone down to even with the stone in the middle there. And then this area on the right, which is going to be bathroom, is still raised. So I'm digging my way forward. And I'm now onto the second tire. It is Tuesday morning. And this is how far I got yesterday. So I did the first tire there that the sledge is sitting on. That one's pounded. And then I did another batch of cement so that this cement block is taller. But once again, I'm going to do it in 2 batches. So the first thing I'm going to do today is mix up another batch of concrete. I get those mixed up. Cement is the powder that goes in. Concrete is the plus sand and aggregate. So I'm going to add the screws in to the top tire so that the concrete has something to bond to. And then do the first batch of concrete. Come on out, kiddos. The chicks are just starting to explore and get a little further out, and I'm helping them by them coming to me out here. So basically right now the other chickens are confined in the citadel till like for the next hour or so, till late morning. And then I plan to close that back up before I let the other chickens out so Verona doesn't get injured again. But she's doing a little bit better. She was able to move herself around a bit. And hopefully she'll make a full recovery from yesterday. I think she was just kind of traumatized. And in a situation where if they were in nature, if I wasn't protecting her, the other chickens would probably just kill her. So it was almost like a fatalistic kind of mentality of just giving up and like accepting death and like just kill me already. But with time, she is able to kind of heal and do her own thing and keep living for as long as it's got some value. Chicky's eating some greens. Good job. I think that's Latte. I haven't named them all. There's Latte, there's Cass, and there's Duniger. Though the 2 black ones look very similar. So I think I'm going to call one Cass and then the other Haley. Because Cass Haley is a musician. And sometimes I name him in pairs like that. He's a great musician, by the way. You should check him out. There's a bunch of raven children. Looks like there's 6 of them. 4 black and 2 brown. So maybe that reflects their gender? I don't know. Oh, I think that's their parent over there that just flew to the top of that tree. Where is it? Oh, there it is. I was trying to get the sound of them. They sound really cool when they talk. But I think I scared them off. Thank you for talking. You guys sound so cool. They're in a maple that's just waking up. Alright, that's all. I did some bootleg radiation mitigation. Look at the new headdress the Falcon thing here has. Basically the plastic is there to limit how hot the rock gets, basically in the sun, to limit the temperature in the dome. Because when the rock gets really hot, then it radiates the heat down. So the idea is that so that the rock doesn't receive as much radiation from the sun, blocking a lot of it with plastic. And then we'll see how well it works. So I got the next batch of concrete on, but now it gets a little tricky because the next course of tires is unpounded all the way to right there. So in order to extend the tire wall, I have to move this entire stack of tires here. So I was trying to avoid that, but I'm going to do it, and so I'm going to move this tire stack over to the area I cleared out where there's all of like that fire damage, so that the tires don't impede on other kind of springing life. So the concrete is now high enough for the next course. It'll just have to wait till tomorrow or the next day to cure before being able to accept it. So this is the first tire that was pounded. This is the second tire that was pounded out of the dirt from the room. And now I'm going to carry the dirt over and start on the nearer tire. So I'm going to skip that one and I'm going to start putting it in right there. On to tire number 3. Working on the right side now, probably about halfway through the tire. And I'm going to do the front last, I suppose. There's a bond or a footer kind of thing, a thin footer in the ground there that I'll dig up to expose and then connect to with the cement. But probably more than 50% of the dirt, roughly, gone so far. So by the end of the day, Tuesday, got 4 monster truck tires pounded, 1 extra set, and the concrete there all done this morning. And you can see how much I was able to dig out here. I think you can see. So basically got all the way to the back, about 8 inches, some places more like 10 inches deep. On the left side, not so much. But I've just got that front left to do tomorrow, maybe, weather permitting. And then I was actually hoping I would get through all this today, but a number of things came up and it's all good. And so once I can get all that up, I can get the materials for the slab. And that's the next step after moving all the dirt is the slab.